Hello, Christchurch. I am here to ask a very simple question. What do you think about conspiracy theories? Some of you will be thinking about claims that the CIA have been harboring alien life on Earth for decades. Others of you might be thinking of that secretive but strangely well-known organization known as the New World Order, always up to no good, always being talked about in the media. And some of you will think of the claim that 9/11 was an inside job, not orchestrated by Al-Qaeda, but rather by George W. Bush and his cronies. Conspiracy theories are weird, right? Except most of us are inclined to discuss conspiracy theories. It's just that we do something like, we say, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but, which often means we're a conspiracy theorist in denial. And of course, this makes a kind of sense, because when you think about it, when we say, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, we're often defending our conspiracy theory by simply saying, look, I'm just positing that maybe a conspiracy explains this particular event. And that actually does make a kind of sense, because we know that conspiracies occur, especially given those pesky WikiLeaks and NSA revelations. Our worry about conspiracy theories is that we don't know where belief in them is going to lead. Do we go down the rabbit hole once we start believing in conspiracy theories? I mean, we all know of wacky conspiracy theorists. There's this guy, David Icke. He believes in alien shape-shifting reptiles who control the world, drink our blood, and are emotional vampires of some kind. And his views have salience in our own little political sphere. This is the Prime Minister basically denying being an alien shape-shifting reptile due to an OYA request. He claims he doesn't own a green suit, he's never been in a flying saucer, and he got a vet to check that he wasn't actually a reptile. So it's important to note, John Kerr is not a reptile. Then, of course, there's Alex Jones. Alex Jones has a much more prosaic thesis about the world. He doesn't believe in alien shape-shifting reptiles. He believes we're controlled by the New World Order. And, of course, within our own local context, there's Ian Wishart. He believes that anthropogenic climate change is a scam, that scientists are suppressing the truth of intelligent design, and that Helen Clark, a former Prime Minister of this country, was not under the control of alien shape-shifting reptiles, but rather lesbians. Now, obviously, conspiracy theorists are weird, and therefore conspiracy theories are weird too, right? Indeed, it seems that all conspiracy theorists ever do is engage in what we might call negative argumentation. And by negative argumentation, I mean they tell you everything you believe is wrong, and therefore all their conspiracy theories are in some way correct. And if that's the case, we don't want to count ourselves amongst those conspiracy theorists. Thus, we can happily get on with ignoring claims that say the NSA spies on everyone, that Cameron Slater ran black ops for elements of the National Party, and that the UK and the USA went to war in Iraq on a pretense. Conspiracies occur. Even the staunchest defender of the status quo is willing to admit that conspiracies do occur. It's that niggling worry we have. If I start believing one conspiracy theory, aren't I going to start believing all conspiracy theories? What's stopping us from buying that tinfoil hat? Well, the answer is philosophy. Specifically, thinking critically about conspiracy theories. I'm here to tell you that you can be a conspiracy theorist without becoming a David Icke or an Ian Wishart. And just look at my credentials. I wrote my PhD on belief in conspiracy theories, and there's my book, The Philosophy of Conspiracy Theories. If there's anyone you're going to listen to when it comes to the claim that conspiracy theories have a bad and unjustified reputation, then it's going to be me. Sometimes it's rational to believe conspiracy theories. Think of it this way. We all know people who vote for, say, our preferred political party, who couldn't give a good argument as to why to save their life. In almost any topic, in any field, there are people who believe things for what turn out to be bad reasons. And yet we don't typically dismiss the entire field of atheism just because Richard Dawkins said yet another stupid or bigoted thing. Or at least we shouldn't. In the same respect, the fact that there are weird conspiracy theorists out there doesn't actually tell us that belief in conspiracy theories is actually weird. All it tells us is that sometimes people believe things for bad reasons. Now, some of you will be going, hold on. Surely the reason why we're so skeptical about conspiracy theories is that most of them are not supported by the evidence. Now, I'm not going to disagree with that kind of sentiment. Everything we believe should be backed up by the evidence. And yes, there are plenty of conspiracy theories which fail to be good precisely because there is a lack of evidence that supports them. At the same time, there are lots of seemingly wacky conspiracy theories which, when investigated, turned out to be true. Indeed, all it takes is a cursory glance at history to find examples of seemingly implausible and massive conspiracy theories, which turned out to be vindicated by the historical record. Take, for example, 1930s Russia. When it comes to plots and capers about Bond-style villains, Russia in the 1930s reads more like fiction than a Dan Brown novel. The lead character in this particular melodrama was Joseph Stalin, leader of the USSR, and one of, if not the greatest mass murderers of all time. In the 1930s, Stalin was obsessed that his former friend and now enemy in exile, Leon Trotsky, was conspiring to take over the USSR. Stalin asked the security police to investigate, and when they found no evidence of a conspiracy by Trotsky to take over the USSR, they manufactured the evidence. They arrested people, they physically and psychologically tortured them, put them on trial, found them guilty, and then executed them, all to prove the existence of a conspiracy that did not exist. Now, at the time, people who saw the available evidence said, look, these trial verdicts look like they're a bit of a sham. But to cover up their conspiracy, Stalin and his cronies called their detractors conspiracy theorists. And faced with dueling conspiracy theories, the governments of the UK and the US sided with Stalin and dismissed his detractors. And this turned out to be a mistake, because when Stalin died, his successor Nikita Khrushchev, one of the conspirators, actually admitted to the deception. Conspiracy theorists use examples like these, which are more common than most of us are actually willing to admit. Say, look, there could be conspiracies going on right here, right now. And given what we know from the NSA revelations and from WikiLeaks, we should not dismiss these concerns lightly. Also, it turns out that sometimes all you've got when it comes to explanations are rival conspiracy theories. Take, for example, the death of this man, Alexander Litvinenko. Some of you might remember the story. Back in November 2006, Alexander Litvinenko, a vocal detractor of Russian Federation President Vladimir Putin's regime, died after he was poisoned with polonium-210. Polonium-210 is an aggressive and vile poison, and it takes a very long time to die. It took Litvinenko 3 weeks to succumb to his poison, and in that time, he blamed elements within the Russian establishment, as well as Putin himself, as being in on a conspiracy to kill him. Now, killing someone with polonium is an unusual form of assassination, given the sheer cost and effort it takes to obtain and refine the radionucleotide. And so it seems that it just doesn't seem likely that he was killed via mundane reasons, but rather a conspiracy. I.e., why didn't the assassins, if they just hated Litvinenko, pop down the chemists and buy a simpler, cheaper toxin like cyanide? So the question is, which particular naked Putin pictures, very easy to find on the internet. Why didn't the assassins pop down and buy a cheaper toxin? It just seems likely that actually his death is a result of a conspiracy. But which conspiracy theory about his death should we believe? Was Litvinenko killed at the behest of the Russian state as a warning sign to other vocal detractors that Putin can get you at any time? Or was Litvinenko a patsy for the Russian dissidence movement, a calculated death designed to foster tensions between the West and Russia? No matter the case, it seems that the only way to explain Litvinenko's demise is by reference to some theory about a conspiracy. We might not know which particular conspiracy theory is true, although people do have their suspicions, but a conspiracy theory is the only viable explanation for the death of Alexander Litvinenko. And then, of course, there's 9/11. No matter what you believe about what happened on September the 11th, 2001, in New York and Washington, D.C., you turn out to be a conspiracy theorist. So, for example, if you believe that 9/11 was an inside job committed by George W. Bush and his cronies, then that's a conspiracy theory. In the same respect, if you believe that 9/11 was committed by Al-Qaeda as retribution for American foreign policy, then that's a conspiracy theory as well. After all, the Al-Qaeda hypothesis posits a set of plotters who operated in secret towards some end. That is a classic definition of a conspiracy. In this case, a conspiracy to commit a terrorist act. The big thing about 9/11 is the question, which conspiracy theory is warranted by the evidence? And that's the big issue, isn't it? Because sometimes conspiracy theorists put forward arguments and evidence in support of their claims of conspiracy. And in that kind of situation, we are obliged to follow the arguments and evidence wherever they go. So if someone puts forward an argument in support of a conspiracy theory, we are obliged to analyze that argument rather than simply dismiss it out of hand. If we dismiss conspiracy theories just because wacky people like David Icke or Ian Wishart believe them, then arguably it becomes easier for conspirators to get away with their conspiracies. After all, if all conspiracy theories are bad examples, then of course anything that gets labeled a conspiracy theory, we can just push to one side. It would be much better for public discourse if we were to consider conspiracy theories on their merits, because I suspect, like me, you want to live in a world which you think is free of conspiracies. So, I am willing to embrace conspiracy theories. The question is, are you? Thank you.